Hey, if you had conversations with observant people about what they expected a potential President Biden would do right off the proverbial bat, you no doubt hit on the subject of executive orders. And guess what? Part of the pop media Biden inevitability narrative includes his list of just that. And it also includes their absolute adoration of that list. Hi everyone, I'm Gardner Goldsmith for MRC-TV. Executive orders, the magic talisman of all who worship the U.S. Emperor. And, well, heck, if smoking Joe Biden is sworn in, he can't count on the House and Senate backing every idea that's been fermenting behind his aviator shades.
Oh, sorry.
And if you were with those of us who predicted Joe would love executive orders, your prescience is being proven. Because that's precisely what Biden's team is spreading. Plans for lots and lots of executive orders. And the so-called reporters at the Washington Post are lapping them up. In a piece that didn't seem so challenging, it would require 3 people to write, Matt Visor, Seung-Min Kim, and Annie Linsky for the Washington Post tell us this. President-elect Joe Biden is planning to quickly sign a series of executive orders after being sworn into office on January 20th, immediately forecasting that the country's politics have changed and that his presidency will be guided by radically different priorities. And isn't it nice to see them claim not only that Biden is officially the president-elect, and of course he's not, but that the country's politics have changed. I don't feel any different, do you? I guess we just automatically change according to who prematurely claims victory in a presidential election. Hey everybody, it's me, President-elect Goldsmith. The Electoral College is not really doing its thing yet, but hey, you know, I identify as the president-elect. Who are you to tell me I'm not the president-elect? What a farce. Of course, Biden's politics have to be your politics. And specifically, one of Biden's highest profile targets is Trump's withdrawal from the Paris Climate Accords, those being a set of catastrophically burdensome so-called regulations that Barack Obama loved but never signed as a treaty. An accord to supposedly curb greenhouse gas emissions that was never approved by the Senate as a treaty, and of course which Obama wanted to implement nonetheless.
To set the world on a low carbon course. The result was the Paris Agreement.
And of course, those greenhouse gas emissions have not been proven to significantly drive global temperatures in the first place. And even if they had been, the U.S. free market is designed to reward energy efficiency. So, as Secretary of State Mike Pompeo noted when the Trump administration first announced the planned departure, U.S. emissions of criteria air pollutants that impact human health and the environment declined by 74% between 1970 and 2018. U.S. net greenhouse gas emissions dropped 13% from 2005 to 2017, even as our economy grew over 19%. Ironically, Trump's exit from the Paris Accord was only official on November 4th, the day after the so-called election. The Washington Post's triumvirate also tells us more about Biden's planned executive orders. He will reverse President Trump's withdrawal from the World Health Organization. He will repeal the ban on almost all travel from some Muslim-majority countries. And he will reinstate the program allowing dreamers who were brought to the United States illegally as children to remain in the country, according to people familiar with his plans. I always love when thieves come up, you know, it happens all the time. They come up to you in an alley. Hey, listen, I got some plans. Oh, okay. Thanks. Makes me feel so much better.
Do I really look like a guy with a plan?
What a curious thing to read, that statement about the World Health Organization, since when Trump announced his withdrawal from it in April, many Americans realized that there was nothing in the U.S. Constitution that allowed the federal government to fund it in the first place. But don't bother looking at the Constitution, nor at the fact that the original use of executive orders was to handle small internal operations of the executive branch, like moving an office or a guard. The fact that the executive orders can touch on things ranging from what we use to heat our homes to whether our tax money will be used to fund international health bureaucracies. That's a glaring sign that the federal government has assigned the executive branch projects and powers that the central government was never designed to consider, let alone to engage in doing. But the WAPO writers seem blissfully unaware of all that. In fact, they triumphantly depict the Trump moves as undermining established norms and institutions, while Biden's plans to engage in his own executive orders to restore the towering bureaucratic walls are somehow restoring the established order. Although transitions of power can always include abrupt changes, the shift from Trump to Biden, from one president who sought to undermine established norms and institutions, to another who has vowed to restore the established order, will be among the most startling in American history. He has also said he would send a bill to Congress repealing liability protections for gun manufacturers and close background check loopholes. He has pledged to repeal the Republican-passed tax cuts from 2017, an effort that could be stymied if Republicans hold the Senate majority. But hey, if one tries hard enough and embraces the Washington Post mindset with all the vigor and gusto one can muster, perhaps it's possible to come together, as they tell us, to not resist and be oppositional, to love Big Brother Biden, even if he lifts his executive order shod boot to stomp your face. Welcome to the new world, perhaps. Hey, thanks so much for watching, everybody. Remember, please like and subscribe if you're watching on YouTube. Head over to MRCTV.org. That's MRCTV.org so you can see what the whole team is doing. And if you want some great items, go to MRC-store. We'll see you in Facebook. We'll see you on Twitter. We'll see you in Instagram, as long as we're not blocked. And please remember, we really rely on you to share these videos with people, and we really appreciate it when you do. For MRC TV, I'm Gardner Goldsmith.